Okay, I think we're good. All right, well, I'll let you kind of jump in with just an introduction and then we'll go from there.
Good deal. So my name is Sophia Maresco. I'm 25 years old and I just started my didactic here at Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady, which is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So it's about an hour away from New Orleans. It's not too bad. Um, I was a sonographer, so I was an ultrasound tech prior to PA. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I am originally from New Orleans, so it's not too far away from home. I'm not married. I don't have kids. And yeah.
Yeah, this is going to feel like your PA school interviews again.
Yeah.
There you go. I want to talk. I don't know that I've had anyone on the podcast who's been a sonographer.
It's not very common, which that's what I was going to mention that I think made me stand out for PA. It's definitely not a common thing. And I actually am one of six, at least in the state of Louisiana, with certain certifications. So that was definitely, I think, my highlight of my application. So, I mean, I loved it, but I really wanted to get more involved with patient care. So that's why I chose PA.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about what it takes to become a sonographer?
Yeah. So I started off when I graduated high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do going into college, but I knew I wanted to go to college. So I did 2 years at LSU in Baton Rouge. And from there, I was just kind of I felt like I was the only one in my group of friends that didn't really have a major in mind with just a goal. So I started exploring advisors and just seeing what was out there and what to do from there. And actually, one of my advisors recommended the cardiopulmonary science program at LSU Health Science Center, which was in New Orleans. I always loved learning about cardiology. I was always super enthusiastic about the heart and all that kind of stuff. So I just went for it. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I had just went. So luckily I applied and I got in. My class of sonographers was only 9 of us, including me. So it was very small.
Wow.
Yeah. So from then on, it was 2 years, including summer semesters as well. So 6 semesters, which included kind of like PA. You did your first year of all classes, and then you did clinicals at the end. So when I graduated, it was in 2016. I finished with a bachelor's program, a bachelor's degree.
Okay,
So,
I
yeah.
didn't even know that was a bachelor's program.
So it's usually not.
Okay.
There's associate's programs, there's certifications and all that kind of stuff, but I ended up going through the bachelor's through LSU. So it worked out in my favor.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, what exactly does that entail? I feel like when we talk about ultrasound, obviously what most people think about is babies, and doing ultrasounds for babies, just because that's what we know about. But I feel like ultrasound, and even more so, I mean, it's the use of it is growing. There's all these handheld ultrasounds now, pocket ones, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, what exactly was your role, and what could someone expect from that type of role?
So, through my program that I went through LSU, it was specifically cardiopulmonary or cardiovascular. So I graduated with my adult echocardiography ultrasound certification, which strictly just means that I do ultrasounds of the heart for adults. I don't know how to look at liver. I don't know how to look at babies. I don't know how to do any of that. You're looking for very specific things in an ultrasound. So it's not you can do one, you can do them all type thing. You have to be able to understand the hemodynamics and the physiology and the anatomy behind what you're doing. So I graduated with my adult. My very last clinical rotation was a pediatric cardiology rotation, and I fell in love with it. So you wouldn't think at that time, you wouldn't think that pediatric cardiology was very different from adult cardiology, and there's a lot to it. So I actually got my first job doing pediatric cardiology, and I trained for an entire year before taking that certification exam. So pediatric cardiology definitely has my heart. And then from there, I actually learned fetal echocardiography. So that's when you look at the heart for the baby within the mom's belly. So it's very, very specific. And that's why I'm saying that I'm only one of 6 in the state of Louisiana that has these certifications. But that doesn't mean that I can look at a liver ultrasound and tell you what I'm looking at, because I can't.
Well, that does mean that probably going into PA school, like whenever we get to the peds part and talk about all the heart defects and everything, you're probably good to go.
Yeah, I know that like the back of my hand.
There you go. That's great. And actually, I mean, and I don't know how widely available what you did is in other places, but cardiology is such a big part of PA school, and the pants is the largest section of pants. And so, I mean,
That's
that
what I,
gives you such a leg up going in. I mean, that's huge. That's really cool.
yeah, so like I said, I loved it. And I think that's ultimately what it's kind of like I didn't even know what my path was, but deep down, it's like I did know what it was because I loved cardiology. My advisor led me to this program, and now I'm in PA school. Like it's like perfectly lined up. But
There
I
you
know
go.
that's not for everyone.
Okay, so how did you transition from sonography to PA?
So that transition came about because when I was in sonography and I wanted to get more involved with my patients. Like I loved being able to do their echo and kind of like follow them through like pre-surgery, post-surgery, that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean that I'm taking care of the patient as a whole. And I know there comes a lot more to it. So that's when I started realizing I'm like, I want to do more. Like I want to and I was also young at the time, so like I didn't want to just settle into sonography. I could see myself just doing more. So that's when it came about that PA started to become a more and more popular thing, and someone mentioned it to me, and I just went for it. I mean, I could take classes while I worked, I could afford it, and so I ended up working out that way.
Okay, so you did have to take some more classes. Obviously, you had the experience part like in the bag.
Yes.
Is
So that
sonography widely accepted, would you say, for PA schools? I would think it
absolutely.
would be. I mean, that's great experience.
Yeah, I never had any issues with that kind of patient care experience in that aspect. I mean, I did it for almost 4 years, so I definitely had a lot of hours. But where I lacked was the prereqs. So what I did to catch up to that was I worked full-time hours and I would take classes either online or on campus at a community college, either nights or weekends, or just like I said, online. Whatever I could do, I was doing it. But I also didn't want to overwhelm myself because what I was doing was very intense. Ultrasound, you had to be focused all the time. I couldn't slack off. So I didn't want to overwhelm myself with too much school. So it took me a little while to get there, but I got there. So that's why I'm 25, so I don't envision myself as old, but I'm one of the older ones in my class, and I think that's okay. Everyone's experience is a little bit different. I didn't know I wanted to do that as soon as I graduated from undergrad.
Okay, so what made you choose PA?
I knew I didn't want to do nursing school. I just knew it wasn't for me. And med school, I was never interested in med school. I could never see myself being a doctor. I could never see myself going through the long process of med school and taking all the classes. I don't find myself a competitive person. So I couldn't see myself going to med school because I think that's super competitive. And so I like the idea of PA because you're independent, but you also have somebody to fall back on and you work as more of a team. So that's what I liked about PA.
Okay, were you able to work with PAs in your role in sonography a good bit?
Yeah, we had three PAs. We had two that were surgical PAs, so they helped out with the surgeons and all that kind of fun stuff and post-ops and pre-ops. And then we also had one who she would see patients in the outpatient clinic as well as she would round in the hospital. So I shadowed two of those and I loved it. I mean, that's what I could see myself doing to this day.
So you think you're going to end up in cardiology?
Fingers crossed. We'll see. Very open-minded, but that's where my heart is.
Sounds good. I mean, we need them for sure. Okay, so when it came time to apply, what kind of did your application cycle look like?
So, to be honest, I had no idea what I was doing when I first went in. I was very naive. I had no idea what to expect. I don't think I realized how competitive it truly is until I was in it. Um, my first application cycle, I will say that I winged it. I don't think I necessarily prepared all that much for it, but then that's because I didn't know what to expect. I also had a big mess up where I had classes in progress and I didn't realize that you had to submit your final transcript. So I automatically got rejected from a million schools. So first application did not go well.
I am so glad you just said that, because like right now is when I'm getting all these messages where people are trying to send their transcripts, and I've been telling them like, no, you have to wait until all of your classes are complete in your, I mean, so like some people, if they're getting their degree or whatever, if it's not complete on the transcript you send, it's not included.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I that the very hard way.
Oh,
So I would definitely stress that to people who are applying now, to make sure you send in your completed transcripts to make sure that you are considered. So with that being said, the second application cycle, I think I was more prepared. I think everything happens for a reason. The first time, I didn't know what I was doing. The second time, I realized it is a lot more competitive. You do have to put time and effort into it, and to submit everything on time, completed, et cetera, et cetera. So I know they say, is it about 6 schools is the average that you?
6 is the average of accepted applicants.
So I applied to 12.
Yeah, 10 to 12 is usually my recommendation, like if you can swing it.
Yeah.
And I think 6 is that number between 10 and 12, and like the people who apply to one school.
Yeah. So
Or 1 or 2.
I applied to as many schools that I was willing to go to and that I fulfilled the prereqs. I know it was expensive to do, like to send all your transcripts, to do all that, but I looked at it as I'm doing this for my future. So you have to be able to put up the money and the effort in order to benefit yourself later on. So that's what I did. And honestly, the second application cycle, whether it was that I increased my GRE, I increased my GPA, I actually read your book, all those kinds of fun things really helped me out in the long run. I started getting interviews like that, like so fast. Oh, another thing, I applied a lot earlier the second time around than I did the first time around. So that definitely, I think, also made a big difference. And then as far as my interview process goes, I had interviews at one school that I actually went to, and then I got accepted 3 days later. So I had to cancel all my other interviews. So
How many did you get offered?
I know I got offered at, oh God, I can't even remember now. 2 in Florida. I'm trying to think of, what is it? Southeast. I can't even remember them.
There's South, and then there's South University.
Not South. There's one in Tampa and one at Fort Lauderdale. I mean, one in Orlando and one in Fort Lauderdale.
There's Nova.
Nova Southeastern.
Okay. Nova Southeastern. Okay, there was the South part. Got it.
Emory. I got some in California, which I'm like blanking on the names now. I got 2 in California, and then the one in Baton Rouge. Like I had a list of them, but honestly, once I wanted the one in Baton Rouge, is just obviously where I accepted. Luckily, it worked out for me where it was my first interview, and I accepted the offer 3 days later. So all the other ones were, I'm done. I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so did you, after your first cycle, as far as like figuring out, okay, there's some places I need to improve or I messed up, how'd you figure that out? Did you just like self-reflect or reach out to the schools?
I absolutely reached out to the schools. I know some schools kind of weren't accepting of that, or they didn't really want to give feedback, but wherever I could, I did, because that was the only way I was really going to find out what I could do to improve myself. And I'm one of the people that are just going to persist until I get an answer as to what I can do, because this is my end goal. So whatever recommendations I got, I did. I remember, this might be a little bit funny, but University of Florida told me that my experience wasn't broad enough, which I thought was silly. So I didn't take that. I will say I didn't take
They were just trying to come up with something.
Yeah. So I just ignored that. I didn't take everything personally, but whatever I could do and whatever was realistic in my world, I did. I also got more feedback on my personal essay, so I revamped that. like I said, I retook my I keep saying GPA, GRE. I get those confused.
It's okay.
I got that redone and I improved my score. And then, yeah, I kept taking classes to look better on my transcript and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Well, you had a great outcome. So how long have you been in school?
So I started in January.
Okay.
March 13th was my last day because of coronavirus. So didn't have too long of in classes,
Yeah.
but we're doing Zoom, so it's working out.
Oh gosh, how many people are in your class?
31.
Okay, that's fairly small.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, mine had 44. I think 40 is kind of average. There's some that have 70 or 80, which is huge to me. Yeah, that's a lot. But yeah, okay. So, did you do anything to prepare before PA school or get ready for it, or did you work up until it?
No. So my biggest thing is kind of like on Facebook blogs and all that was I heard give yourself a break. So I definitely took advantage of that because I could. I know not everyone can. So I took off about a month prior to the start of PA. So that's when I quit job and I was finished. And then I took off for the month. I actually went to a short trip to Denver, Colorado with some friends, and I just relaxed the rest of the time because I knew from here on out it was going to be business. So that's all I did, really. I just gave myself that time, and it's really just like a congratulations to yourself as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, how has school been?
It's been fine. I mean, it's definitely different than undergrad. It's a lot more intense. I know everyone tells you this, but you don't know it until you're in it. So it's definitely been an adjustment, but I think it's doable. As long as you go in with the mindset of it's going to be serious, it's going to be hard, you're not going to have as much free time, I think it's going to be okay. I remind myself all the time that time's going to fly by and we're going to be finished. It's not a long program, so it's really just a matter of sitting down and getting it done.
How long is your program?
It's 2.5 years.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it's not terrible. But I mean, it's 1.5 years of didactic and then 1 year of clinical. So it's not like you're going to be staring at the book all the time for the rest of your life.
Do you think you would have done as well or had the same outlook going into it straight from undergrad? Or do you think taking those couple of years to get experience and kind of, I guess, mature would have helped you in that?
Personally speaking, if I could go back, I don't think I would change it. I like that I had that time to grow as an individual and then also just be able to see all different dynamics because I did work as an ultrasound tech, so I don't think I was like higher up in the medical hierarchy basically. So I could see how it is like working underneath some people and how some people underneath me were treated and all that kind of stuff. So I like the experience that I gained. I also think it helps me determine if I do like something, if one specialty versus the other and that kind of thing. So I wouldn't change it. I think that definitely helped me.
No, I think your experience is awesome. Like very high quality, I guess would be the best way to put it. If we had to rank it. What has been the hardest class, or maybe not even class, but thing about PA school for you so far?
So as silly as it sounds, it's like it doesn't relate to PA school, but it does. So I had to move away from home. I recently got engaged, so I had to move away from my fiance. And so I think the social aspect, what people don't see behind closed doors, is actually hard. I miss my family, I miss my friends, that kind of stuff. So that's been hard for me. That's what I would pinpoint it to be, rather than school itself.
Yeah, just balancing and trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like, and we talk about this a lot on the podcast and in PA stuff in general, how it's hard sometimes for other people to understand how involved it is and how intense it is, and
Yep.
As much as kind of we want to make time for everyone and everything, it's just not an option for that 1.5 years where you're going at it. So
So I know Corona is not a good thing, but looking at it as a positive, I've came home and now I'm home doing PhD. So it's like I benefit both worlds during a horrible pandemic.
That's why I wonder how this is going to change things just in general with, I think we found out we can do a lot more things online than we thought we could, and what that's going to do. Like, even my patients are loving telemedicine. Like, they
What I've looked forward
want
to
to do
is
it.
one of our classes, we're learning how to do like patient interviews and how to do that kind of stuff. And since we can't be in person, we're going to do a telemed visit, which I think is awesome because I don't think we would have done it before, but yet that's what healthcare is moving towards.
And that's good skills for you to have for sure. Have you found anything since, well, we get a lot of questions about online classes anyway, because a lot of people do them, and it sounds like you did some before you went to PA school. So do you think that's helped you in being able to adjust to moving to online?
No, I think the fact that has helped me was that I worked full time and did classes, so I had to be hard on myself when time restraints were happening. So being at home, I still have that like rigorous schedule for school and then playtime after. So I try to continue that. I don't think the online classes really helped me or anything like that. I think it's just two separate things, really.
Hasn't made a huge difference or anything. Do you find it, somebody else I talked to said they find it like sometimes hard to focus more than being in a classroom setting? Would you agree with that or disagree for you?
For me personally, I think it is a little bit harder to focus, but I kind of like will grab my phone, stare at it for a few minutes, scroll, and then just catch back on. So of course I would never sit there in class and do that. But I don't think it's really making it any worse for me. I think my grades are still fine. I still have just enough notes and that kind of stuff.
How are y'all doing tests?
Through Exemplify. So we're constantly being monitored with the eye thing, with the camera. And so we've always been doing tests like through the same program. We're just now being watched through the computer versus a proctor.
Okay, cool. Well, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Anything else you want to impart or add for pre-PAs? Anything helpful?
I guess if you have a question, feel free to ask. I was always like a little bit intimidated to ask certain things, or I felt like, oh, you should know that by now. No, like feel free to ask. Feel free to reach out to whoever you need. I know people are busy, but I think it's a matter of just fighting for yourself because you're going to need it, like yourself, to get through it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I love that. Well, is there anywhere where people can reach you or ask you questions, or I can
your
email
so
or
Instagram, which is my name, so Sophia, and then it's Moresco. I'm private, but anybody can just add me, as well as Facebook. I'm same under the same name, and then email as well. So it is sophia.moresco@gmail.com.
Cool. Well, I'm sure you'll get some questions about your experience, and I hope some others can follow your path because that's really, really cool.
Absolutely. I would love to help people out.
Yes.
I'm glad I worked with this.
Yes. Thank you so much.